Hi, Living Guardians, Unseen Inquisitor here, and this is not a strike showcase of the PsiOps Battleground, the Moon, as its debut as a Nightfall, which is pretty cool. So we're looking at it in its Hero Nightfall iteration. It's Arc and Void Surge, and I figured I might as well take advantage of that since it's only a hero level, and I went with an Arc build Warlock. There's a lot of Arc shields. Arc threats also on, so be careful. We have barrier and unstoppable champions to deal with, which is why I'm kitted out with double primary. It's only a hero level, so I'm okay with running double primary. And away we go. So we are on the moon, and the story is that the Lucent Hive are invading the moon and are trying to summon a portal, and we need to stop that because that's no good. So we start off at the Scarlet Keep, going backwards from the actual Scarlet Keep strike. And it's cool to see a location after the fact, right? Like the story has progressed past, Shadowkeep has progressed past the time in which we did this as a strike. And so it's just cool to see the state that the Scarlet Keep is in the timeline as it progresses forward. And what I find pretty cool is that we see parts of it are kind of like responding to or changing to the present of the Lucent Hive, looking more like stuff from Cyberpunk's Throne World than the, well, scarlet coloration of the Scarlet Keep normally. So that's kind of neat as well. We have Cabal support, which is very cool to see. I like the evolution of that whole concept and narrative of having Cabal allies. That's pretty cool. And we are a little over a minute in, and we've defeated champions. We're encountering more champions. We're encountering Hive Guardians. We have Lucent Moths. We have a whole lot of ads to clear out, and we have a high intensity fight going on right here, without even being 2 minutes into the Nightfall. Right? You can destroy the Tomb Ship's guns if you shoot them enough. It hardly ever comes up, so you don't really need to do that much at all. Here is a Hive Guardian. Be sure to finish off their ghost, or else they'll come back. And my teammates are down, and we're not even 2 minutes in, and I'm also using a super. I tried to revive, it just wouldn't let me. I'm not sure why, so I had to revive after, but I had to get out of there first. Luckily, I get the revive off before I get moved to my death. What I could have done, I didn't realize that that was finishable, I could have finished to stay alive there, but I also didn't remember that you can get boofed off of here and die, so now I know. Now you all know if you didn't know before. So, with that said, the activity of PsiOps Battleground, or at least the objective of this one, is to stop the ritual, like I said. But out here, all we're doing is killing all the enemies to progress forward. That's all we do in this first section. The second section is we kill more enemies and we dunk some burdens of tribute to stop a ritual, and then we fight the boss. So there's not a lot to traverse and do. The time is made up by having a lot of enemies to kill. It feels like a battleground, and wouldn't you know it, being called a battleground, that's rather fitting. So that's, I appreciate that. In any case, this is probably for a hero level Nightfall for sure, perhaps the toughest one we've had in Season of the Deep. I don't recall having this many ability kills and using a super and having to do revives like we have thus far this early on in other Nightfalls, really. Mars Battleground probably also, but that's not in this season. So once we kill everything, we get to progress forward to the Ritual Chamber and take out some heavy ammo, because why not? So as we progress forward, I feel that this was a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of people who got complacent with the ease of which we were able to go through Nightfalls for some time. Pre-Lightfall, hero level was not the weakest Nightfall. We had another Nightfall level that's even weaker that had no champions in it whatsoever. It was a real quick breeze. So they got rid of that and kind of brought us back to form a bit of having, Nightfalls feel difficult in general, regardless of what level, and have champions in there as befits in Nightfall, which is part of their formula, and I'm okay with that. And this one in particular, for Season of the Deep, feels really good in terms of having some difficulty and some weight to it, some meat to it, and what we gotta do and deal with. And I appreciate that. It also really lets our builds stretch their legs, right? The amount of enemies we face is not just over in 30 seconds. I mean, you get to do a lot of ability spam certain builds or just let your builds really stretch their legs, and I really like that. So anyways, we are in the ritual chamber, and we gotta disrupt this ritual with Burdens of Tribute. You get the Burdens of Tribute from the orange bar wizards. The orange bar wizards will eventually have a little icon over their head to let you know where they are in case you get lost in the shuffle of killing everything that spawns in, because a lot of stuff will be spawning in. You take that Burden of Tribute and you go to one of these fountain looking things. It'll have an icon on the screen above it for you once you have a Burden of Tribute on your person. You jump on top of the fountain for it to automatically dunk it for you, and that helps disrupt the ritual, and you got to dunk a total of 12. You can hold more than one. But as you can see, we have champions spawning in. We have Lucent Moths, because encasing Lucent Hive. We got a bunch of ads spawning in. We have, of course, the wizards themselves. We will have Hive Guardians, and you will have a Shrieker or two to spawn in over time. So be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of what enemies are near you. Kill them. Don't let them stand. You know, don't get tunnel vision on killing just one particular thing or on the wizard or the champions. The red bar enemies, the quote-unquote trash mobs, they're not to be taken lightly, and you should focus them down as well. We want to clear out everything because we want to stay alive, and we want to not have to really worry too much. So the more you clear out, the more, not the more you clear, the more they come in, but there's going to be plenty here, so definitely clear them out. Get some breathing room. Anyways, the amount of abilities I've used in this section of the Battleground alone is a lot, right? And I like that. Our builds are built for this particular reason in mind, and we're finally able to kind of stretch our legs a bit without having to be in like master content or whatever, and I think that's really cool. So I always find it odd with the amount of complaints I see online for stuff like this, because this is why we have our builds. This is the whole reason for the builds. For situations like this where we can be in difficult stuff but absolutely slay out at the same time, and that's what, you know, is fun. Watch out for the Shrieker, and then progress on as normal. You don't really have a time limit. Of course, the faster the better to progress through, but you don't really have a time limit. So, you know, take a moment, stretch your legs, clear out the ads first, make sure you got the champions down, things of that nature before you just focus on killing all the wizards, getting all the burdens of triumph. Now, when they hit the ground, they'll stay around for a decent amount of time, but they will eventually despawn. It's okay because more wizards will constantly spawn in. So even if, you know, you have 11 of 12, you might have 3 wizards up, because it's just going to spawn them until you're done. That way you're able to actually dunk them, which is cool. So I just dunked 2 there at the same time. We are a little bit over halfway through. You can see the ads don't stop, and that guy just got punched to death in his rift. Be careful. Remember, arc threat is on in this particular case, and this in hero level Nightfall, see what threats are on, see what the modifiers are, and take them seriously. The rank and file, the red bars and orange bars, are going to be probably what gives you the most trouble to kill you outside of the final boss of the battleground itself, and mostly that's because you are not focusing on clearing out some enemies, right? It's a dance between focusing on the objective, whether it be disrupt the ritual here or kill the boss at the end or whatever. You have to dance between that and, you know, clearing out the enemies. So be sure you do both as best you can. If you find yourself struggling in hero level Nightfalls in general, I mean, this one's a clear indicator, if you will, but if you find yourself struggling, how's your build? How's your power level? Do you have things to stun champions? Are you stunning champions? Are you using your abilities? Are you relying too much on your teammates to stun champions or whatever else, right? This is why on matchmade stuff that have champions, I go in with the assumption that nobody else will stun, and sometimes I'm proven right, usually more so than not, but not always. And in this situation, I have teammates that are stunning champions, so that's nice. But you definitely want to modify your weapon loadout. If you typically run, like in this arc build, I prefer to run Cold Heart. It's a trace rifle, but I don't have any overload to stun here. It's anti-barrier and it's unstoppable. So instead I swapped to this auto rifle because also I want to get some kills with it, and I have a hand cannon for the unstoppable stun. I find hand cannon stunning unstoppables works. I mean, it works like any other unstoppable, it just feels good to me. Anyways, more of the Scarlet Keep transformed into Lucent Hive visuals, which is kind of cool. But we have done the deed of disrupting the ritual, now we got to approach this portal. And this is where the boss fight takes a turn, right? Because it's not your traditional boss fight. The boss will appear and we'll be damaging the boss down once we get there. But first we got a champion and a champion ogre and a normal ogre to deal with. But once we get to the boss itself, we're not trying to kill it here. In fact, we're not trying to kill the boss at all. We're trying to capture it. That's the narrative of PsiOps Battlegrounds, to capture the Lucent Hive for interrogation purposes. But anyways, we are not doing that here necessarily. We are weakening the boss enough for our Scion Cabal allies to subdue, right? For Kaido's forces to subdue the boss. Then we enter, via space magic shenanigans, the mindscape of the boss. And in there is where we defeat the boss. Not to kill it, again, but to sever its connection with Savathun and with the light to make it capturable. And that's the whole point of what we're doing. So it's a bit of a different concept. It doesn't make it any less lethal or hectic, as you can see. But because any damage we do here is a moot point, because the boss will have full health at the start of the fight proper, my recommendation is to kind of conserve power and special ammo if you can. If you have a burst super, by all means use it here, because once the fight starts in the mindscape, you get your super back. But if you have something like a tether, a well, or a bubble, I advise holding on to it, and I'll get to that once we get into the mindscape. So just burn the boss down as best you can here, and then we'll be able to progress to the fight proper. You'll know when you've done enough because the boss will go immune and scions will appear to subdue the boss, which will be happening pretty soon. So, as I was saying, this is kind of a wake-up call that yes, Nightfalls are not a pushover thing, and I appreciate it. I like it, and I think, if players take it to heart and contribute properly, that you won't really have a problem on a hero level. And obviously you don't at the higher tiers because you're going in there knowingly. I think because it's match made, people just assume it'll be easy, and that's not necessarily the case here. So this mindscape is pretty interesting. It looks very similar to the Shadow Realm from the Leviathan raid in a sense, in terms of the coloration, but that's a topic for another time. So when you start the fight, you get your super back. So if you have a tether, a bubble, or a well, I advise using it before you activate the fight, because you'll get your super back. So you get to have it active and your super active, so it's kind of cool. Anyways, with that said, here we are facing the boss. The boss is a witch, or a wizard I should say, with wielding the light. So its super is an arc super, and arc threat is on, so that's pretty dangerous. With that said, don't forget about the ads. As I mentioned earlier, if you kind of just disregard them, they will come back to bite you. So you don't want to do that. The boss is health gated. When you get to the health gate, the boss will disappear, more ads spawn in, and an aspect of Savathun appears and shows its face. We have to defeat the aspect of Savathun to progress the fight. The only way we can do that is with the spear, the Sonatic Spear, which is grabbable now. So, obviously though, we don't want to just grab it willy-nilly, we want to stay alive. So we want to deal with the champion, we want to try and avoid Savathun's super, because Savathun's arc super will hurt really bad in Hero and basically kill you everywhere else. So be careful. There's also going to be an anti-barrier, or a barrier I should say, that spawns that we get to deal with as well. But once we deal with the two champions, that's the last of the champions for this Nightfall, so that's kind of good. But we still have plenty of ads to deal with. Now, the spear can be used in three ways. You can throw it, and when you throw it, it has actually pretty good homing to Savathun, but not to anything else. It won't home to anything else, it will only home to Savathun. So we can throw the spear, we can slam the ground with the spear using our melee, and not blow ourselves up with our own grenade like I nearly did. And then, if you use your grenade ability while holding the spear, you will, or use your grenade button while holding the spear, you will teleport shunt, which is going to be useful for getting out of harmful situations. In any case, the spear is versatile in that regard, and it's the only way to defeat the aspects of Savathun, but it also does good damage to the ads, so you can definitely use it to clear out ads as well if you need to, which is quite handy. So we still have this barrier champion to deal with. We'll take it down, and then be able to progress forward with dealing with the aspect. Don't discount these ads, right? Make sure you kill them. There's 3 of you, so if you notice your teammates focusing on the aspect of the boss and kind of disregarding the ads, and you feel like it's getting too hot, then focus on the ads. Either way, you know, you guys gotta defeat the activity, so it doesn't matter who's focusing on what, as long as everybody's able to win at the end, right? So once you defeat the aspect, if the spear still has time remaining, it stays, which is cool because it actually works well to clear out ads or deal damage to the boss. So the boss is back, and it's basically rinse and repeat. The boss will use its super, we'll have ads spawning in, we gotta burn down the boss, we gotta take care of the ads. There's a lot going on in this boss fight. It's quite hectic, and I kinda dig it. Again, it feels like a proper Nightfall boss. Watch out for those lucent moths with arc threat on, they hurt real bad, so definitely make sure you try and kill them, or if they pop up and it's too dicey, get out of there before they really can chase you, so you have some added room to potentially kill them. And just continue focusing on the boss, focusing on the ads. Feel free to use your super, and, you know, not just save it for the end like I am, but you know, play it, you know, feel it out. I was gonna say play it by ear, but really feel out the situation. Should you pop your super, should you not? I always will use my class ability when I'm reviving, just for added safety, give us some arc souls, do whatever else. But just don't discount these enemies. They will come back to bite you. I know I said it like 15 times already, but I just want to drive that point home because I've noticed a lot that people kind of just forget about them, and that's what's ultimately killing them, not so much the boss. Or they're the ones these are the things making them critical, and the boss finishes you off, whatever the case is. With that said, once we get to the next health gate, we'll have another round of the aspect of Savathun. Only the difference here is we have 2 spawning in, so be careful. They will never cross over, so the one on the left will stay on the left, the one on the right will pretty much stay to the right. This is good, because if you prioritize staying to one side and just try to burn down the aspect immediately, you then have some pretty good safety from the other aspects that won't come over to you. I kind of do that, but then I kind of ditched this area real quick because I wanted to deal with ads, when really I think we could have burned down this thing if I stayed, so that was my misplay, but it worked out in the end, so it's, you know, I don't feel it matters too much. But there will be a yellow bar ogre in here. That is what I was trying to deal with. So just keep that in mind, and they'll come down the center. Ideally, all 3 members of the fire team will be on one side to burn down Savathun real quick, and then we have some pretty good safety to deal with everything else. But that's not the case here. Again, as the aspect of Savathun super hurts a lot, so really be careful. Take care of this yellow bar ogre, then I'll run right into the super and nearly die. And then I'll really run off the map, don't do that either. But do what you have to stay alive, and then, you know, that's what I did with the recover. I kind of got out of line of sight there. Now that I recovered my health a bit, I'm able to kind of progress forward and go back to grabbing the spear and doing whatever else. So, really, you know, the easiest thing to say is prioritize staying alive, and to do that, focusing on ads is completely acceptable, especially in this hecticness of a final fight here. But it feels pretty good. There's that slam dealing with some enemies. The synaptic spear does pretty good damage, so I like using it when I can. Anyways, once you finally defeat the second aspect of Savathun, the boss will reappear, and all we really need to do is finish off the boss. Literally kill it and then finish off its ghost so it doesn't come back. And then you'll have finished the PsiOps Battleground. It's a fun fight in a Nightfall situation, and I like it over the Mars Heist one. I like the Mars Heist. I don't think it's bad. I just encounter more players not really knowing or knowing what to do and certain aspects of the fight that make it feel like more of a chore. Because, they don't know what to do, and they're just not doing it for whatever reasons, it seems. But here, at the very least, even if you're not going to disrupt the ritual or whatever else, you're killing enemies. So you're helping in some capacity. This is a battleground more focused on killing the enemies to stay alive than do a particular objective, so it works. In any case, finish off the boss, and the fight is concluded. So, that is the PsiOps Battleground, the Moon. What are your thoughts on this as a hero level Nightfall, or the Nightfall in general? It's the first time we've gotten it as one, and it's pretty cool. I like it. I like that we kind of return to form here and some difficulty for the boss fight, and that's the whole Nightfall in general. And yeah, with that said, feel free to consider subscribing if you wish to be part of this. To be part of conversations like this, obviously, if you comment, you're part of this conversation. But to be part of conversations like this more easily in the future, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to commend your fellow guardians. So, until next time, stay frosty.
Every warrior needs their rest. Some just know when to take it.